And we're ready whenever you are, Mayor.
Okay. Is everyone coming?
Councilor Scamperly confirmed coming, so and Councilor Reich and Councilor Powers said they wouldn't be here. Councilor Reich said he wouldn't be here. Councilor Powers emailed us a little while ago and said he was done.
Why don't give Dan 2 minutes?
I'll give him a buzz and I'll try. Oh, there he is. Just message you, so you can ignore.
Saw it.
Good evening and thank you for attending tonight's city council meeting. For those who are attending remotely, the camera in the council chambers is set up to show those attending in person tonight. Please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Kathy, would you call the roll?
Mayor Scally,
Here.
Councilor Dilaba,
Here.
Councilor Fisher,
Here.
Councilor Kennedy, here, Councilor Powers,
Councilor Powers is away on business for his work and he has to be excused. He said he might be remote. Is
no,
remote?
he emailed that he was not even going to be able to make it
Okay.
remotely.
I think he's still traveling.
And John Reach is out also.
Councilor Reich, Councilor Scamperly,
Yes, here.
quorum present.
We have 3 presentations tonight, and we'll begin with the mid-year financial review.
Good evening, Council. So we have hit our halfway point throughout the year in the month of June, and I just kind of want to touch base with you where we are after 6 months. Just at a very high level, the general fund has spent approximately 43% of their budgeted expenditures, so we're, pacing very well there. In terms of our largest revenues, the real property taxes had a budgeted decrease of almost $500,000, so that was a planned decrease there. One of the important things to note is that the collections are coming into the city at the same pace they were last year. So it's not that they're ahead or they're behind, they're pretty much right on the mark where we were collection-wise at this point last year.
Was that with taxes? I'm sorry.
Yes, real property taxes.
Thank you.
No problem. The next largest revenue piece for the city is a sales tax. We are reflecting an approximate 25% increase year to date on the sales tax revenue. This offsets the decrease of the property taxes, so we're not really anticipating a huge decrease in revenue for 2021, at this point. Overall, our revenues, if we look at all of the revenue in the general fund year to date, year over year, is pretty flat. So we have 8.3 million of non-interfund revenue in 2021 at this point, and 8.28, so almost 8.3 last year as well. So no bad news in that respect. As far as revenue to the water fund, that is very, very similar to last year. It's showing a $12,000 increase, so nothing out of line on that one. The sewer revenue year over year is showing a reduction of $31,000, which can really be pinned to one large commercial account that is just using a lot less water this year. So that is all good news. In terms of the 2020 audit, we have completed that. That is done. And the general fund had a surplus of $1,463,145. We will end the 2020 year with a general fund balance of $4,036,000 rounded. So it's all good. We did enter the 2020 year though with a $1.4 million tax anticipation note that had to be repaid. So that entire note was repaid, very much equal to our surplus. So as far as from a cash position, it's relatively the same where we are year over year. There is no tax anticipation note in the city for this current year. And at this point today, we're not anticipating needing any additional borrowing, which is positive news. We did back in February 22nd, that council meeting, make a commitment to pay St. Lawrence County back the $825,000 of taxes that had previously gone unpaid for a number of years. We've made about 1/3 of those payments to the county. We have 18 months to do so. So 4 months in, we've paid 1/3 of that back. So we are on target to meet that obligation. The June reports are handed out. There's really nothing, I think, in the way of variances that we haven't discussed previously, but if there are any questions, I'd be on anything that we've just gone over, I'd be willing to entertain that.
Good news.
So the general fund balance, I thought you said it was 1.4. It looks like 2.4.
No, the surplus in the general fund as of 12/31/2020 was 1.4 million. And that added to our beginning fund balance, Councillor, would leave us with an ending fund balance of roughly $4 million.
Okay. So that's very good.
It is very good. Fund balance, just so you know, doesn't represent cash. It's often kind of, we think we have this fund balance, but in there are also non-cash assets as well that make that up. So it is important to note that that is not a reflection of cash.
Any other questions?
In terms of the budget, are we expecting any kind of payout from the opiate case that was recently? Because I know Augsburg signed on at the urging of the police department about 1.5 years ago or 2 years ago.
We are, the news reported there's been a settlement. So the big companies have settled. I just saw the notification go to the attorney last week on an information request from us. So we'll supply that. I don't have an idea right now what the potential numbers would look like, and I definitely wouldn't want to speculate because it'll get watered down 6 or 7 times before it gets to us. But I think we are at a point now where the settlement is there. So now they'll be figuring out how to disperse the funds.
Okay. Just kind of checking in, make sure we're on top of it.
And you can give our next presentation, American Rescue Plan Act.
Yes, so we are expecting money from the American Rescue Plan Act. There's approximately $1,066,000 coming into the city. We will receive $533,000 this year, and $533,000 are anticipated to be received next year. The eligible costs that we can get reimbursed for would have had to been incurred between March 3rd, 2021 through the end of December 31st, 2024. So even though we received this money in 2021, I mean, we do have a couple of years to make some solid plans and spend this money in what it was intended for. So I think just by and large, the government doesn't normally necessarily give us money that has this much latitude in it. So the uses for the money, I have noted 5 potential uses that are recommended to the city. One is the recoupment of lost revenue. So the federal guidelines have come out with a very specific calculation of how you calculate what your lost revenue is. So a chunk of the money can go to that, stay in the city's coffers to help offset the loss of revenue due to COVID-19. Other potential uses that we see that would benefit the city overall is the support of not-for-profit groups. and charities, the support of small businesses, and the support of individuals. And again, I just stress that this is probably one of the few times that the city of Ogdensburg will receive this large of money with this much latitude for use. And the fifth one being a water sewer infrastructure planning project that, council ultimately has to decide what they want to do with this money. So we're just have it here waiting for use.
So that would mean that if we were planning on a water sewer infrastructure development, we could use it for the planning part, for the engineering or maybe or something.
Right. And we would have to just make sure, Councilor Scamperly, that we are meeting the determined guidelines on the water sewer portion of those funds.
What about for police and emergency services? All over the news, they're saying municipalities can use this money for police and emergency services so that people don't get laid off, et cetera. Can we use that money?
So the intent of the money is to offset the police and emergency services with respect to COVID-19. So if you had, let's say, a vaccination site in the city and you used your public safety personnel to man that, I mean, that's a very basic, very general example, but it's very clear that it has to be related to COVID-19 response.
Okay.
So probably the most difficult parameter in this, you'll see in there, the reason of the 5 buckets that we're going to provide more detail and look for you all to provide us, things that you would like to see us do with this, is that it really is designed to be money to be paid out directly to support COVID. Probably the biggest latitude non-COVID we have is in the water sewer infrastructure area. But because of the amount of money that is, I just want to urge council to look hard and give the most emphasis on, again, providing the funds to the nonprofits, the small businesses and individuals, and we'll come up with a recommendation on how we would ask you to look at applications or assess requests for funding. We've got several already from nonprofits. Again, it's the water sewer, again, projects of actual work projects, totaling the millions of dollars. So again, as Angela said, the latitude for us to get directly to businesses and individuals with funding is usually pretty difficult. However, we will compete, as we've learned going through this round of grant applications, designed to be able to compete well for the money to actually do the project. So while we've got a couple grants in for design, there's another one that we'd like to look at as far as getting that funded with some of this money. So we've got the project on the shelf. So when the grant rounds come up again, we've got the projects ready to go for execution. I think one of the concerns this year was, why aren't we applying for more money? And again, for the big money projects that we need to do infrastructure replacement, we've got to have the studies and the estimates and the plans in place. So getting the projects ready for the magnitude of order we're talking about is really, really critical. I think on the first one that Angela's talked about, the recouping the lost revenue, at the moment, we don't have a considerable amount of money there, probably less than 50,000, and even that will be somewhat questionable because we were able to claim some reimbursement through the disaster declared through FEMA. So again, I think what I was looking for was council's any comments tonight or just your feedback over the next week or so. If you'd send us notes, your thoughts on really supporting, again, the nonprofits, charities, the small business groups, and how we can look at getting money directly to individuals. I think that's, again, where we're probably the biggest takeaway I'd like you to get tonight is that's where we'd like to see at least this first year's $500,000 be targeted, is how do we get it in the hands of the people that need it the most.
Have we had any small business groups that have come to the city and let us know that they're in trouble?
Not in trouble, but we've had one inquiry from a small business just basically by reading the advertisements that this money's out there, what it can be used for. So we've had one inquiry so far. Again, I think it'll be kind of incumbent upon us to go out very quickly once we get authorization from council on what our latitude would be, have an application process. Got several requests from nonprofits and the charities, some of which we support through the budget process already, but have shown direct impact from COVID-19. So I think we'll be ready, excuse me, at probably a second meeting that we'll have in August to bring you all those for consideration. And then again, talking about general parameters of which we think we can reach out to small businesses. One of the things that, as Angela again mentions, latitude, that I think will be good for this is we can create our own process here that won't be so daunting that small business owners and individuals will look at it and say, you know, it's just not worth it for me to spend all this time and effort, and the process is difficult, et cetera. We want to create a pretty simplified process. Watertown ran a similar initiative just recently. I think they had a lot of success with it. The applicants were able to get their information in. It was something they could assess the proposals and get money out quickly. So it's one of the things I've heard from the small business owners here again is all these processes they sound good on the sound bites on the television, but when you actually get into them, they're a whole lot of work. And by the time you hire somebody to help you do it, it's pretty daunting. So again, we won't, you know, $500,000 is a lot of money sitting here. And by the time we divide it up over a lot of businesses, it won't be enormous amounts of money. But if we can figure out how to get, you know, grants of $5,000, $10,000 to $20,000 in the hands of small business folks here in the city, I think it would be highly beneficial. And then on the individual side, trying to figure out again what kind of programs we could target for folks to be able to again get direct assistance without a lot of strings attached.
What's the time frame on spending?
So we've got through 2024 to spend the money, but
For both sets, or is it 2024 and
The
2020?
entire
pass.
fund amount. Mhm.
So even though you get it in 2021, you can hold it.
Sure, we
It
can
doesn't
defer
matter
that
which
to any
increment
year.
it comes in.
Correct.
Our final presentation is a financial restructuring board update.
Thank you.
What I want to do this evening is just provide you an update on where we are with the financial restructuring board initiatives. Some of these are getting quite a bit of publicity and some are not. Just wanted to read part of our summary here. The city is working diligently to advance each and every recommendation and initiative as part of the BOLD plan to save the city from financial ruin and ultimately begin the revival of the city. For their part, county officials have been slow to parallel efforts of the city, and there does not appear to be an appetite among the majority of the county legislative body to take action on any matter that works towards consolidation of services. State officials are supportive, but maintain a hands-off posture when it comes to encouraging county officials to act decisively, as witnessed with the sales tax distribution matter. Efforts to pass home rule legislation, giving Augsburg the ability to collect up to an additional 1% of sales tax in the city, were not supported by the county legislator, despite always being supported by Augsburg. Pervasive narrative among county officials that the tension between the county and the city began when the 2020 city council took office. Factually, that's incorrect and misleading. The St. Lawrence County legislator, led by Chairman Joe Lightfoot and Finance Committee Kevin Akers, began their assault on Augsburg's rightful share of sales tax in the summer of 2019, just as dire financial conditions of the city were being illustrated by the Financial Restructuring Board report. The city can no longer continue to be treated disparately by the county in regards to resource allocation and service distribution. And as long as in the days that the city are paying more for county and duplicative services must be long gone. Sales tax revenue has increased countywide from $20 million in 2000 to $60 million in 2020, more than enough money for all the towns and villages and the city. If the county's position continues to be they want all the money, the city needs to move swiftly to cease any service the county is funded to provide. Page 2, I just give you an initial snapshot of where we are. We'll be following up with a more detailed report on each one of these, but to be able to make sure that all of council is informed, here are each of the areas that we've requested the county to work on with us. I'd like to note in the financial restructuring report, one of the initial narratives is the local government's primary responsibility is to deliver services for the benefit and well-being of its residents. The functions listed below illustrate the significant duplication of services among the city and the county. Next to each function is the current status of consolidation or analysis to the study to be consolidated. Police law enforcement services requested to meet the county to discuss a plan for analysis. We met last week for the first time with the sheriff to discuss this. The meeting was very productive. We're going to trade information with the sheriff and look where are there places that we can initially save money, again, sharing services, equipment, et cetera. And then ultimately look at the bigger picture. Is there a better way to provide local law enforcement services? Police dispatch, the third shift pilot program is complete. We're waiting an implementation date. We've requested 1 October to be able to convert the third shift over and then begin looking at shifts 1 and 2 for the coming year. Property tax collection and foreclosure. We've met, as you all know, with the staff numerous times over the last 6 months. The county opted to take no action on this. The city has hired special counsel to work on beginning this transition, and we'll be starting that process at the next city council meeting. Personnel and human resources, we've not made any headway on that or any discussion. A couple years ago, the city did transfer their state civil service responsibility over to the county. Payroll, time and attendance, position in the city has been abolished. Functions have been transferred will be transferred to the newly hired deputy clerk. Purchasing, internal collaboration and consultation between department heads exists. We have no formal action. Plowing, street maintenance, paving, we've not had any discussion on those yet. I expect those to happen sometime in 2022. And the Lafayette Street Bridge, a request will be made this week for the county to assume responsibility for the Lafayette Street Bridge, just as they do all bridges in St. Lawrence County. Again, we'll provide a greater detailed report. I just wanted council to see these are all the actions that we're working. I'll keep you posted as we have meetings. Some have been real productive with the county staff, some not. I think a lot of it has to do with, quite frankly, the county also looking to see what's going to happen when we preempt. What will the funds look like? What will be the potential reduction of them, as well as what kind of money we will see. We have to drive on with this process without knowing specifically where our loss of revenue will be with sales tax. We have to find a way to do with less or get the county to continue to do those services. So again, I welcome council's comments at any points. If at any point members of council want to be part of the working groups or sit in on any of the staff sessions that we have, I certainly welcome your participation. Legislator Curran sat in on the meeting last week with the sheriff. Thought it was kind of helpful getting her perspective. So again, welcome any of you when we've got those, and I'll let you know as they continue so anyone can attend.
Can you give us a few days heads up or a week or so?
Yep.
Best you can. Yep. We got a plan for these. I'm very curious as to topic A, the police and the sheriff. Is there a discussion on personnel? Is there a discussion on other services?
So what we talked to the sheriff this last meeting about ultimately was three things. One, we shared with him our police reform initiative findings and objectives and things we're working towards. He was interested to know those things. Second, what we talked about was ultimately those things, those services the sheriff provides that we also do, that perhaps we can either share or one of us doesn't have to do those services. And then secondly, we've talked about, again, forming a group, a committee, between Ogdensburg and the county and anybody else that wants to join it. What should law enforcement look like, local law enforcement in St. Lawrence County? I shared with him my model, my thinking that, again, the largest organization, the New York State Police, should be the base. That's what we should be considering first. What do we get from the New York State Police? What can they provide? What will they provide if pressed to do that? Then what does the sheriff provide? And then ultimately looking, giving the city council the ability then to look at, once those two larger agencies level of service is known, what do they provide? What is then left that the city wants to provide for itself? The current model where the city providing the base of service first and then seeking assistance from the county, and again, the larger entity, the state police, is absolutely not sustainable. We just cannot possibly sustain that. Residents of Ogdensburg are paying for all three agencies. So I think it's pertinent to know what can we get from those entities.
Can we get a report on how our police that are functioning these days?
Sure.
In terms of prior years, I mean, I'm hearing rumors people are working 2 or 3 shifts in a row, things like that. What about the drug task force? I know, every time there's a meth bust, the county's called right in. They usually have a drug guy here. I mean, that's a shared service that should be highly respected and whatever. And I know that there was a system in place before where the Ogdensburg police served certain functions of that drug task force along with the state police. Can we get an overall picture of what it looked like before? And then I think that's if there is going to be a committee, that should be the starting point, right? What did we have and where are we at right now, especially with Ogdensburg being downsized? So.
And that's one of the things we talked to the sheriff about was that pre-2020, we were sitting with a uniform strength of about 27. 2020, we were at 24. This year, we budgeted for 23. Looking, likely somewhere in the 15 to 18 range going into 2022 with the reduction in sales tax. So there's no question we've got to bring the sheriff up to speed on those things, and we've got to understand what are the other resources that we can get.
We've got to have 26 as far as what I'm told, by what's going on here. So
Sure.
minimum.
Yeah.
Good. Going back to the dispatch too, could we get like a bulleted email based on the synapse? You interrupted me.
I'm being in.
You weren't talking, I was. Can I please continue? Thank you. So could we get like a bulleted point on
Steve, he's gonna have to be removed. He's back there.
no, nobody's,
I'm sitting here.
He's gonna have to- Please, remove.
For what? So, damn word. You said a word sitting here. Just because I offend you sitting there doesn't
Please
make,
remove him.
give you the right to make me leave.
Remove him.
Jerry, let's just leave it alone.
Just sitting there.
Sitting there, making
Shut up.
faces,
Making faces.
and, it's on, and
Okay.
I'm gonna stop the meeting if he isn't.
This is ridiculous.
Let's give it one
I will
chance.
stop the meeting if he isn't.
If we all left, we didn't say anything, we wouldn't have an audience.
What was he doing, sir?
He's making faces, standing up,
He is not.
you know,
Oh my God.
looking at me, and it's like, I don't,
If I leave now.
and he's already, he just told me to shut up. He just told me to shut up.
He did.
He did. If,
Can we just-
they could stop the meeting,
You called him out, by the way. You called him out.
why don't you be quiet also?
No, no, be quiet.
I'm not going ahead with that.
well, I will because I was talking. So going back to the police dispatch on the October, can you stop talking? I have not interrupted you at all. Don't hate me. You're not my father.
Listen, you just wait.
No, I will not listen. So back to my October 1st, I don't care. So back to the October 1st, can we go back and get a brief snapshot of the actual interactions and dispatching going forward?
I'm gonna stop it.
Dan, let's go.
Okay.
Meeting stopped. I'm out of here.
Meeting.
Petty and juvenile.
You're a real piece of shit, Jeff.
You need to grow up, man. You need to grow up.
I'll see you again next Monday, by the way.
You're a great example.